So, I'm going to start the meeting. This is the second public meeting of the Milton Traffic Mitigation Committee. My name is Jeff Mullen. I'm the chairman of the committee that's been appointed by the Select Board. The first thing I want to do is welcome you all and thank you for coming, and thanks, of course, to the members of the committee. The second thing is I'd like to ask the members of the committee to introduce themselves, and in order to be seen on television, you need to go to the microphone up there. But Mr. Dennehy, maybe you could start and just tell who you are, and then the other members one at a time could go and introduce themselves as well, if you don't mind.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mike Dennehy, I'm the town administrator in Milton.
Bill Clark, I'm the Director of Planning for the town.
I'm Mike Zulis. I'm a member of the Select Board.
My name is Mark Alber. I'm a lieutenant with the police department.
Good evening. My name is Dick Burke. I'm a member of the Master Plan Implementation Committee.
Hi, I'm Tracy Dyke Redmond. I'm just a resident, but I'm also the secretary for the committee.
So, Mike, can you... So the meeting agenda, there's 3 items on the agenda. The first is the status of the committee's work. The second is a review of our wiki page and feedback. And the third is we'd like to take some public comment from all of you. Excuse me. The committee was established last year by the Board of Selectmen to explore opportunities to lessen, mitigate, and calm efforts at auto traffic on public ways, including the potential for regional solutions. We've been meeting since then to discuss that. We've been obligated to report to both the Traffic Commission and to the Select Board on a quarterly basis, and we've been requested to make recommendations to both organizations. We began meeting in November. We meet just about every other week on Thursday mornings, according to a work plan that we put together that mostly involves speaking with experts and people who are involved in various aspects of transportation. So, for example, one day we had a member of the planning team at the Department of Transportation come and speak to us about the transportation study that was done on Route 138. Another time we focused on the MBTA, and et cetera. So we've been exploring known issues. We've been looking at data. We've been speaking to people. We received public input at one public meeting that we had at the public library, and we'd like to get additional input today. We've also put a fair bit of data on Town of Milton's website, and we've established a wiki page that Mr. Dennehy will speak to later, all in an effort to develop enough information to report to the Transportation Committee and to Commission and the Select Board by the end of the year. That's our objective. I'd like to ask Mr. Dennehy to report on the things that we heard at the first public meeting and what the town has been doing in response.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also want to welcome everyone that's here again. I see some familiar faces. The Mustos are back again. Good to see you. And just welcome everyone here. As the chair said, this is a listening session. What we're trying to do is collect information from the public. Everyone's commute is different. Everyone's commute is a struggle. Everyone's what they see in the town would love to know about. So we did unveil the Wikimap page in February. It's been pretty successful. We do see the numbers starting to dwindle a little bit. We've had over 400 requests made on the wiki page. We do take a look at that on a weekly basis, both from a public works perspective to see what we can do to improve some of the short-term problems that we see, requests that come in, and the police department also sit with us to review some of the safety and enforcement issues that we may see pop up. So as you can see on the screen, there's some small things that we've done. I used the word mundane in one of our committee meetings a couple of weeks ago, and I was corrected. It's not mundane. All of these things are necessary, and they do have an impact in our town. So, for instance, the town is trying out some new pedestrian solar crossing lights, flashing lights. We received several requests for the 300 block of Pleasant Street. Those of you familiar with the town, there's a small marketplace there that I know as Trackus is back in the day, but I believe it's called the Pleasant Street Market. But there are a lot of kids either coming from Cunningham Collycott School or going to the playground or to the park. We get a lot of requests to put up something more because that crosswalk doesn't stand out, and it's a very safe, unsafe place as it is with cars barreling down the hill on Pleasant Street towards the park. So we did put a sign out there. We've seen a lot of commentary back from the public praising us for that. We also put one just shy of the Glover School as you come down Canton Ave, just by White Lawn there. That was a coordinated effort with the school department. We only have 2 right now. As money starts to flow in from the state level or some leftover money from Public Works, if we can find some, we're going to put more of these out in the neighborhoods. As people see these being deployed, they're asking for more. I know there's a certain section of Pleasant Street and other sections around town where the crosswalks really need this flashing light as a beacon, both in the daytime and at nighttime, to signify that this is a crosswalk and vehicles do need to proceed with caution. Some of the other things we see, which were addressed at the last meeting, we had a gentleman stand up and wanted us, Public Works, to go out and take a look at the stop sign at Lathrop and Churchill. This was actually brought to the Traffic Commission in their March 27th meeting. What the Traffic Commission determined is that it didn't warrant a stop sign, but the crosswalk that's there both needed to be restriped and some type of signage to promote that crosswalk. That work will take place sometime next week when we get our striping equipment up online and we find the signs that are necessary. Additionally, we heard from a resident of 88 Wharf that it's very hard to get out of Wharf Street as cars come barreling down and up Adams Street, both from Dorchester and heading to the city. The Traffic Commission took this under consideration, and not only are they in the process of configuring the don't block the box, there's actually some additional striping that's going to take place on Adams Street. So out of that resident's request or comment came a larger solution to that. Lieutenant Alba, who sits on our Traffic Commission with several other folks, Bill Clark, our town planner, and other town officials, identified that there's some double yellow line striping that can take place in that stretch of Adams Street from Elliott up to Wharf Street, and this will all be coming online soon. I can make this picture available, but basically it's not just that don't block the box, but some other pavement markings that need to take place in order to make that area a little safer. The other thing we're doing is we're reevaluating a lot of the stop lines and crosswalk markings on the major thoroughfares. There was of the 426 requests we received on Wikimaps, I would say a good 40 or 50 of them about restriping and repainting some of the crosswalks in town to reinforce pedestrian safety throughout the town. So Public Works Department is out there inspecting Adams Street, Canton Ave, Central Ave, Elliott, and Thatcher, and they're going to be out there shortly with our own equipment. The town purchased some restriping and pavement marking equipment. We tried it out yesterday in the Fruit Center parking lot with a handicap parking spot, and it seemed to hold today through the rain. So that's stuff that we're taking on in-house to work through that. And then the last thing is we have 12 radar speed monitors throughout town. The overwhelming theme, 64% of the 426 requests that we received through Wikimaps and a lot of the commentary received on February 28th was about speeding through town. We have found these signs to be effective. They collect information both on the volume of vehicles that move through a certain stretch and the vehicle speeds. You would be surprised what some of these vehicles are topping out at. We had a vehicle come down Canton Ave in the Margaret Road neighborhood at 89 miles an hour a couple of weeks ago.
I'm sorry.
Sir?
They used to be on Central.
Yes.
Why did that come down?
So-
That would be incredibly helpful, especially when it would blink really brightly when people were going fast.
It will be going back there. Again, we've got a limited supply right now, and we're trying to move them around the town. It's basically some supply and demand. But that Central Ave one was great. We would capture that information, and the police would use that, and you'd see some enforcement in and around Turner's Pond based on that information. That Central Ave sign collected some pretty damaging information. I think 83 or 87% of the vehicles that were moving down Central Ave were not observing the speed limit. So this type of information is collected by that sign. But to your point, sir, that will be coming back. We've been working with the state. The state's been partnering with some new programs. They have this ride share program. So for every ride that originates in Milton, the state collects 20 cents. They reimburse the town half of that. So last year, the town received almost $14,000 based on the amount of ride shares that were generated from Milton. We used that to go out and buy some radar speed monitors and some of these flashing stop signs. That usually comes this time of year, and we receive that money, and we're going to turn it around into more of those devices. But the Central Ave one was highly effective, and again, the information that it collects is there's 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 cars a day on that stretch of road, and most of them are not observing. And with Turner's Pond and the access to that, and a lot of kids walking to Glover School that way, it can be very dangerous. So, but that's what we're doing. We're trying to move them around. We heard about Lincoln Street the last time we were here, and some of the streets up behind the hospital where people are using them as cut-throughs. So that we can continue to tweak that. Hopefully we get more inventory in. They are effective. We just put one on Pleasant Street as you come down by Gerald, where unfortunately the homeowner lost his or her fence once or twice. You can see people actually tap the brakes when that white light flashes at them. I think sometimes they don't know how fast they're going, and this just enlightens them. But having said that, some of the driver behavior, people see it and they just ignore it. So that's some of the stuff we've been working through. 64% of the requests we received were safety related. That's the resounding theme. A lot of it speeding, a lot of it enforcement issues, most due to cut-through traffic. People get frustrated with what they're seeing on some of the major thoroughfares, and then they start to wind their way through the neighborhood. So I know I said a lot there, and it was...
No, it's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Denny. So we'll go through a few more slides and then discuss the wiki and the data in the wiki, and then we'll take your observation. Let me acknowledge that the member of the select board, Melinda Collins, is here in the back. So thank you, Selectwoman, for joining us. So we put together this slide, a couple of slides here about the preliminary observations. And this is serving a little bit as a peek at the work that the committee has done, with an idea that we would issue an interim report for people to review and comment on in the fall prior to a final report. The first observation, which may not be a shocker, is that traffic is worse based on multiple sources. Now, perhaps you all know that, but it's a universal truism, and all the data points to this. And I haven't gotten to the root cause on a causation analysis. It takes more data to do that, but I'll just give you a data point that Bill Clark has provided us, and that is the town's population actually isn't growing. In 1960, the population of Milton was 26,482 people. In 2018, the population was 27,031. So that's a modest growth of perhaps 600. I went to law school. I don't know the math that quickly, but it's about 600 people, I think. During that same period of time, the number of houses in the town grew from 6,600 to 9,200. So while the population only grew a few hundred people, the number of households grew by a third. So what that tells you, I think, and we can all extrapolate something that's a truism for us, and that is people are living in smaller houses, but each of those houses has one, perhaps two, sometimes 3 or 4 cars. Now, the data on excise tax collections in towns is a little bit harder to come by, but it's these kinds of data that can lead us to conclude that certainly traffic is much worse. We also have data from the Department of Public Works, the Massachusetts Department of Transportation has been taking traffic data on Route 138 for the better part of 60 years. So we've got a fair bit of data, all of which proves that traffic numbers and counts are up. But the second point I want to say is this is not just the same traffic is bad. We need to reject the traffic's always been bad. Get used to it. You live in Milton. You should be fortunate that you live so close to the capital city, and it's a nice town, notwithstanding. This traffic is very different. People move very differently than they did in the past. Mostly, I don't know why. I'm not a social scientist, but I do think that cell phones have contributed to a lot of this phenomena. Something that really weren't, I mean, completely ubiquitous and weren't around as little as 20 years ago. And cell phones manifest themselves in traffic in many different ways. Waze is one of them. Waze is a scourge of many communities in the United States. This is not a Milton problem. This is a national problem that is all over the country. But also distracted driving is a huge problem brought on by the cell phones, as is people's expectations of how to move. So people are responding to things in a very different way. The transportation business is also different today. We never had things like Lyft and Uber before. We never had that option. More people were limited in the number of modes. So people are moving differently. People have different expectations. People are more distracted. And the volumes are up. All of that creates a recipe for things like, frankly, this committee being created. And I know all the frustrations that all of you have. I also think that traffic is only bad when you're in it. So we have to recognize that. People all know what that frustration is. Then when you get home and say, well, it wasn't that bad, although I was on the red line tonight. It was pretty bad. So the third point is we have limited roadway capacity. We had some testimony a couple of months ago about somebody talking about the Southwest Expressway and the fact that that didn't get built. I think we all have to recognize that Milton's not going to see any more roadways. We're not, Commonwealth isn't. We don't have an expectation that there are large volumes of roads being built or widenings. First of all, that's not the way that highway engineering is done today, but also there's no revenue or any plans for that. At the same time, we have a limited roadway capacity that's unlikely to grow. We have increased traffic. We have more people going into Boston than ever. Boston itself is growing. More people want to be in Boston. That traffic pattern, I don't think, is going to change anytime soon, despite people's need for regionalism, et cetera. Creates a bit of a supply and demand issue that you really need. This is the way I think about it, is limited supply and increased demand. And that's why I think we're going to have to focus on the demand side of this problem. That is, try to get people to move in different ways, slower speeds, perhaps more calm, be calmer, and try to shift modes and perhaps at different times of day, and et cetera. So the fourth point is Milton has acute congestion at key locations at specific times of day. So we've looked at some heat maps from Google Traffic. You can go on there and you can easily predict, and you all know what they are, around during the midday. The AM commute northbound on Randolph Avenue is bumper to bumper. Southbound throughout the Blue Hills Reservation is bumper to bumper. I don't have to tell you where the traffic is. Everybody knows, but it's been proven with data. I think one way to think about this is it's like a glass of water that's almost nearly full. And you put a little bit more water in, it's overflowing, and that's what's going on right now. So it's always been a lot of traffic, but now there's so much traffic, it's overflowing. It's definitely overflowing at these peak times. So now if we were to go out, we could drive nearly every place in Milton without much trouble. Even the regional highway system is not working terribly at this hour of the evening. But we all know what that will look like 12 hours from now. Fifth point is Milton residents are overwhelmingly focused on safer streets, but there are also concerns about suggestions. This is what we're picking up from the data and also from testimony from all of you. People want safer streets. You have to remember that not everybody who lives in Milton is using Milton roads. So this is the old sign, drive like your children lived in this neighborhood. And I'm not endorsing any particular point of view. I'm just recognizing that this is what's happening, so that I know myself when I'm driving in Milton, I'm a more defensive driver than when I'm driving in, I'm not going to say the community because it's on television. They might look for me, but you know the point. We all need to drive like it's our neighborhood. And I'm an advocate, the committee is an advocate of calmer roads, but we need to be calmer users of those roads, whether we're pedestrians, bikers, or drivers. There are some things, such as traffic on state highways, that are difficult to impact. Milton has little ability to impact traffic on an interstate road. The breakdown of the regional highway system on 128 and 93 northbound particularly, which is driving traffic on Granite Avenue and making it so difficult in East Milton Square and for everybody in East Milton, is not something that Milton, the town of Milton, or this Milton Transportation committee could do a whole lot about. What we can do is we can talk to MassDOT, we can talk to the city of Quincy about it, we can talk to our regional partners, et cetera, but we have to be realistic about how much you can actually impact issues on 128 or 93 or roads like that. And there are some solutions that are just cost prohibitive. So, a new subway line down Blue Hill Avenue, I'm not proposing that, but that's not going to happen either, so we have to be realistic. But there are things that the town can and should be doing, and frankly has been doing. So if anybody's following what's going around at the school, an example of traffic calming that I think has been quite successful is the traffic work that's been done on Brook Road and Canton Avenue around the Glover School. I think when it first went in, it was a little bit confusing, but I have seen that it's slowed people down as they get around the Glover School and Milton Academy. I think we may see more of that. I don't know. Our point there is that the work of the town in this area didn't start when this committee was created. So what we're trying to do is recognize what has been done and what needs to be done, and then make further recommendations. Next slide. So here are the known issue spots that some have told us. There's been a lot of email that's come in, and that perhaps you all know. But we're trying to identify the issue spots and then find the near-term solution or the near-term plan for each of them. The first is the Route 138 corridor, which has been studied by MassDOT. There'll be an opportunity to comment in September, and that will be a future plan project. There'll be a lot of work done on Route 138 from south of the Canton line all the way into Mattapan Square. The second is the Blue Hills Reservation, which I think the congestion there is gotten to be acute. The good news is that more people use the Blue Hills Reservation today, my guess, than has ever used it. The bad news is on the weekends, the traffic there, on the weekdays, the traffic through the reservation is horrendous, and on the weekends, the pedestrian safety issues around the reservation are very acute. This is an issue we need to work with DCR on. We need to demand that something be done about making it a safer experience for people. And while that might not be on everybody's radar screen in Milton, it is in the town of Milton. It's an important regional resource, and it's something we can work on DCR. We can work with DCR on. The third is the Route 28 corridor, which is probably the most notorious traffic corridor we have in our town. Congestion is acute. Speed is out of control. MassDOT is studying this. They've got a mill and overlay, which is take up the pavement and repave it, which, when I heard that, I said they should be doing the opposite. We should be putting sand on the road, but they do have a mill and overlay plan. They've got a roundabout plan for Chickatawbit, and they've got a future corridor study. This will be a very important piece of work for a very important road that happens to be a state highway through the middle of this town. It's likely that you'll be hearing from the committee that anything we can do to calm the traffic, at the same time trying to manage some of that congestion, will be a good thing. There've been a number of issues about particularly speeding on the Parkway, there's also been some discussion about returning the Parkway or trying to restore the Parkway to its historic character. So we got a letter on that. I know speed has been a big issue, and Lieutenant Alba has commented on it before, so that's on our radar screen. There were a lot of focus on some cut-through streets like Thatcher. Administrator Dennehy mentioned a number of them, so that's an issue that the committee has been aware of. All of the schools have traffic issues, and there's a particular focus on that, and there's been work done by the school committee about pickup and drop-off and trying to make particularly the pedestrian environment around the schools safer. So I think that's something that requires some special attention. The Milton Village Central Avenue Master Plan Implementation Committee has been working on that for quite a while. That's something that Dick is on and has been sharing information with us. That will be part of our report. The last two we broke them out because we think they present different issues. East Milton Square, of course, is a major issue for many people in the town, and sometimes parts of the day you just can't get through it at all. So the deck project will be out to bid, or is projected to be out to bid at the end of this year. But more attention needs to be done on pedestrian safety, particularly getting across the expressway. And we'll be continuing to look at that. And then, of course, the Granite Ave corridor, particularly in the northbound in the morning, is a particular issue. So those are the primary areas that have been called to our attention. I don't mean to not talk about some of the smaller areas, and people, when they comment, tend to focus on a particular intersection, which is good because it gives us good feedback on things to do. And as Administrator Dennehy said, there's really no issue too small, right? Because I think a lot of these, a lot of small solutions will add up to perhaps a real impact. We've got 7 preliminary recommendations. The first is to recognize what's been done already. So we've got a speed limit ordinance. Speed limit in Milton is 25 miles per hour unless otherwise posted. Perhaps that could be approved, I don't know, but that's not for us to say tonight. We'd like to get some testimony on that, but I think it's important to recognize that that has been done, that step has been taken. And some additional signage is going to be put in place to make sure that people know that. Milton has a Complete Streets program, which is all work that's done on Milton streets are being designed for all users, and you'll be seeing that on Lincoln Street in a project that the town planner has spoken to. We've got a town-wide traffic model that's in the works that will help us to try to predict where traffic is going and what some of the issues are. And the police department has put a particular traffic officer on time, full-time, to pay attention to traffic. The second point is look at what is being planned and review that in light of these recommendations. So we want to, where the committee is considering a recommendation that would try to urge the recommendations of the committee to permeate all of the work that the town does. So on an origin and destination study, really understand where people are coming and going and try to target our investments and our work to address those issues. To make certain that we're supporting the work of the Master Implementation Committee, and to the point about radar speed monitors, the data is simply astounding from these radar speed monitors. The speeds in this town, I think most people would be surprised. I think they're hugely effective in reminding people, and I agree with your point about Central Avenue. So maybe we need more of those. I don't know, but that's a part of our thoughts and a recognition of what's gone on. The next series of recommendations. So consider implement a road safety program, which is everything that we do would be targeted on safety. The fourth is consider additional enforcement strategies. This is not a Milton issue. Most communities in America are struggling with enforcement. The issue of how many police personnel you can actually deploy to this issue. Lieutenant Albert is acutely aware of it and is responsible for this for the department. So I don't want to speak to what he does every single day, but certainly that's a theme. We have to recognize that this is a regional issue, and I would give a shout out to Administrator Dennehy for the work that he's done, particularly with Quincy. The growth of Quincy is impacting East Milton Square quite a bit, and we need to recognize that. So we need to work with Quincy. We need to work with Randolph. We've had Chris Osgood, who was the Director of Streets from the City of Boston, came in and was kind enough to come in and speak to us about what's happening in Boston, since they're an important neighbor to the north. And, of course, the MassDOT and the MBTA are important partners as well. Sixth is we want to steal the good ideas from other towns, and we want to look and see what they're doing. Concord has the same committee, different people, but the same committee that we have, and they're looking at the same issues. They've got the same cut-through problems. They've got the same type of town that Milton has. So we're learning about what Concord is doing, and if they have good ideas, we'll copy those recommendations. And the last is just back on the demand side. We want to do everything we can to try to get people out of the cars and make it easier to not have to drive in Milton. And that's a whole series of things, like simple things like bike cages on the high-speed line, which the MBTA is looking at, improving parking supply, working with the T on the bus routes, and improving the park and ride options. We do have 2 park and ride facilities in the town. Or actually, the other one is in Canton, I think, but it's close enough to Milton that we'll perhaps claim it. And then the last thing I want to say, and I'll shut up, I've spoken a lot, is these are 9 of our next steps. The first is to meet with the Traffic Commission, which meets regularly on the types of implementation that Mr. Dennehy spoke to earlier. The second is to develop a Vision Zero roadmap. I'm not tonight recommending that the town join or not join Vision Zero. We're recommending that we look at becoming a Vision Zero community. And what Vision Zero is, it's a nationwide, it actually started in Sweden, but it's a nationwide program designed to eliminate roadway fatalities and major accidents on all roadways in the community. Boston is a member, Somerville's a member, mostly associated New York City, Seattle, San Francisco, mostly associated with big urban areas, but the reason why it might be applicable to Milton is it's a cultural phenomenon, and it's a situation where if you have buy-in from your major public safety officers along with your Department of Public Works and of course your select board, everything you do is designed around safety. It's not unlike Complete Streets, but more nationwide and more leaning in. I don't know of too many small towns, although, is Braintree a member?
Braintree.
Yeah,
Right.
Braintree's a member. So it's the kind of thing that we think the town should look at. It's an important initiative designed around safety, and that responds to most of what we're hearing from what the citizens of this town and community are about. We have to complete the evaluation of more data, the kind of data that the town planner has provided. We've got a lot of data, traffic data from MassDOT. We've got data on data. We want to understand what the data really is showing us and see whether or not we can draw some things around that. We want to work with the schools. So traffic is a culture issue as much as a physical issue. Our future driver, transportation projects take so long to implement. We want to talk to the schools not just about they're the source of our future drivers in the town, but also what they might want to see. So Mike's reached out to the principal of Milton High School, who's put us in touch with a statistics teacher, and we'll be in the schools in the fall talking to them about things that the students see in traffic and maybe having them help us a little bit on data collection, on traffic calming. I'd like to see more of them take the bus, for example. There's a lot to this, and the committee's work I don't think will be done in a day or a month or 10 years, but it's the kind of thing you want to start today, right? So, especially recognizing that many of those people in the Milton Public Schools are going to be driving on Brook Road. They probably drive on Brook Road already, but they'll be driving on Brook Road for many years to come. So we think that's an important audience. Fifth, working with the other schools on central pickup locations. So Lieutenant Albert has some ideas on trying to relieve congestion around the schools that we want to work on. We want to work on, our report will have a series of short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans. Transportation projects tend to take a long time, but many of the solutions that many of you are asking for won't take long. Many of them are small, and we encourage all of those. We want to get out and talk to you a couple more times. We'll report to the Traffic Commission and the Select Board as has been requested, and we'll publish our interim report. So that's really our presentation of where we are and what we're about. I'm happy to take questions, but I also like to hear your testimony. Unless you have immediate questions on that, I'd like to ask Mr. Dennehy to just walk us through where we are with the wiki and maybe show people how it works and how they can
Sure.
find it.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, question.
Do you have like timelines or just when you think?
Okay, yeah, so today is June 13th. There won't be a lot of activity over the summer. I think the committee will continue to meet a few times. We'll spend some time trying to get access to an intern to help us with some data collection. In the fall, we'll have another public meeting or two, and perhaps we'll meet with the Traffic Commission. I would expect a draft report in November and maybe a final report in December. We thought that a year's work would be about the right amount of time. Anybody else? Okay. Ms. Denny.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you can see behind me, what we've done is we've put a link on the town's website for traffic mitigation. A lot of the information we collect, it's a bit overwhelming, but you can really drill down and find out what you're looking for. So, as I said earlier, a lot of those speed radar monitors are in this information that we collect, and we pull this information monthly. Let me find some of the extraordinary ones. But what we're doing is we had a young graduate of Milton High School who's now a freshman at McGill University that has volunteered to come and possibly look at and crunch some of this data for us. But I'm not a statistician. I do love numbers. The trends with this information is not good, right? We've had a radar speed monitor on Governor's Road just across the Quincy line for almost a year now. The information coming in from that allows us to take a look. Let me just scroll down to the Governor's Road one quickly. We won't go through all of these, obviously, but here's that report for February of this year. Let me see if I can magnify it here. But basically, this street was not built to see this number of vehicles. There we go, Mr. Chair. If we can just zoom that up. What we're looking at is Governor's Road coming from Quincy. There's 11,000 cars a day that travel northbound on that street, and I'm pretty sure that's not the way that was built. 11,000 for the week. Yeah. And this information is pretty good because it breaks it down by day. You can look at it hourly. What we're seeing from this information is when there are breakdowns on the state highway infrastructure, people are getting off and exit earlier, and they're winding their way through the town. There is enforcement issues that can happen from that. This does collect average information, so for the most part, the average speed on this street, and this is just one of the radar monitors we've had out there, is below the posted speed limit, which is 25, but it's the volume thing. You can see how on the weekends it drops off. The street gets 1,000 plus on the weekday, and then it drops. So we can assume that correlates to vehicles heading through our town, not necessarily people in the town, but people making their way south of the town and heading through our town north to Boston or their final destination. If you look at this information just for this one radar speed monitor, what you're seeing over the last year is those numbers are actually increasing. We're seeing more cars every day. So not sure how to fix it. Enforcement is always the key. The chief and Lieutenant Alba will tell you it's very hard to police volume. Right? You can police speeding, you can police bad driving behavior, but the volume of vehicles that we're seeing, and hopefully with the students' help, we can crunch these numbers a little more efficiently and really translate into something. There's a lot of work being done on the Traffic Commission to try to bottle some of that traffic, and you see some of the no entering, 4 to 6, 7 to 9. A lot of the time that just puts it on a different street. And unfortunately, some streets are a product of our success on one street. People end up on the next street. I do have a couple of comments to read into the record later tonight from two residents that couldn't be here tonight, and one of them suggests speed bumps, that we begin to entertain what other communities around us, Brookline, Cambridge, parts of Boston, and there are some raised crossing and some speed bumps in Milton as well. So that's something we're taking a look at. But this information, it's all on there. If you want to look specifically at where these monitors were, we captured all the Central Ave stuff when it was there. It's a bit overwhelming, but it tells the story. If we could get back to, let me just get back to our wiki map one here, and I'll show you some of the information. We got our mouse stuck here?
I think so.
Oh, there we go. I think we're getting out here now. But let me see. Basically, I can just walk you through the Wikimap stuff and stop me if I'm repeating myself. But Wikimap's been up for approximately 6 months. It's collected a good amount of information. The overwhelming theme is safety, right? Most of the neighborhoods in town are seeing cut-through traffic and bad driver behavior, and that's leading to speeding, not looking at stop signs, not, what did we say? Stop signs are optional sometimes? Or they're a suggestion? It's I'm making light of it, but it's not a joke. The flashing stop signs seem to work. We're trying to move those around the town as well. But the overwhelming theme, 272 of the 426 requests that we've received are about safety and just cut through traffic, enforcement. And Lieutenant Alba will tell you they can't be everywhere at once, and there is as much enforcement as we'll allow on a daily basis. But in and around the schools, people pull up to where Pleasant meets Pleasant at Edge Hill, and they see traffic backed up. They're going to take a left and go down Windy Pleasant, and that puts pressure on neighborhoods that normally don't see it. But we're going to keep this up till the end of September and continue to collect this information. It's on this website. If you go on the traffic mitigation link, you'll be able to find it. I ask that you continue, anybody who's watching at home, continue to use this. We are working on it. We're triaging some of the stuff we can as we go along. It's a very effective tool. We deployed it for the Complete Streets project, the DPW engineering, and out of that came the $396,000 Lincoln Street project, which helps get a lot of kids that walk or bike to school from the west side of town up to our middle school, where almost 1,000 kids attend on a daily basis. So things like that work. We're working our way through it. Mr. Chair, if I just might be able to talk a little bit about Vision Zero here. So I worked with Mayor Walsh when they instituted Vision Zero at the outset in Boston. It's a cultural thing. Once you get people to buy into it, it becomes the norm, right? Milton has started to do that in 2017 annual town meeting. We adopted the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. People still aren't observing that, right? We need to reinforce that. We have to make sure that social media knows about that. So many people are using social media. It's posted at all the entries to our town. We try to reinforce that. I know the police are enforcing it as best they can. And then there's other things you can do, right? There's statistics that are out now. So Vision Zero basically talks about how traffic deaths are preventable and unacceptable, right? And they are, right? And there's statistics that the AAA have done over the years that just literally by slowing vehicles down, you have an 18% likelihood of fatality or severe injury if you're hit by a vehicle doing 20 miles an hour. That vehicle 10 miles an hour more, you have a 50% likelihood of a fatality or severe injury. And a 40 mile an hour car that may strike you is a 77% likelihood of fatality or severe injury. So it does have an impact. As you slow vehicles down going through your town, that's part of Vision Zero. The complete streets, which this town is part of. I think there's a third of the state has signed up for the Complete Streets policy, which builds smarter streets where crossings are a little shorter. It narrows the roadway so vehicles tend not to try to pass vehicles out. I mean, I'm sure everyone in this room has seen a vehicle try to pass someone on the right-hand side of Pleasant Street or pass a bus to the left, things like that. But as you can change the culture, they started the Neighborhood Safe Streets program, which doesn't look at street by street, but it basically looks at a block of streets and says, how do we make this a safer experience for all modes of travel? And ultimately, the goal is to slow things down and make all modes of travel work through a community as efficiently, but as more importantly, as safely as possible. So I'm going to advocate with my 2 select board members here, as well as the other 3 members of my board, that the town take a long, hard look at adopting a policy. Any type of public works project that we do would be further enhanced through this Vision Zero policy. Any questions on the wiki maps, or do we start?
I don't know how to get, I wish I could get to the, but it's frozen, so I don't know. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Oh, you know what it is? There we go. The mouse is stuck. Bear with me 1 second. Well, while we wait for that, why don't I read in 2 of the comments received today. This is a gentleman who lives on 105 Governors Road, which is that stretch of roadway that we talked about. Hi, Michael. I understand that the town is looking into escalating traffic issues, so I just wanted to share the growing concerns I have based on what I've experienced recently. We live on the section of Governor Road that crosses into Quincy. Lately, it seems that drivers are becoming more frustrated and driving more recklessly than we have seen in the past. There are many very young children living in this street, and they spend a lot of time playing outside. I'm very concerned that due to speed, frustration, and recklessness, we are witnessing that these young children are in jeopardy of being accident victims. Cars parked along the street in front of homes cause blind spots. Also, because cars are parked on the street, drivers must be patient to allow traffic in other direction to pass before they can proceed. This, too, is causing frustration to escalate. Yesterday, my wife was driving down the street with kids, and our car was swiped by a pickup truck coming from the other direction, shattering the side view mirror. The driver didn't even stop. Later yesterday afternoon, I was stuck in logjam traffic and verbally assaulted by another driver who would not allow my right-of-way to pass. Tensions are escalating not only with the drivers who have unrealistic expectations of quickly buzzing through our streets, but also with the parents and homeowners witnessing the reckless and unsafe driving. I fear that not only may some innocent children be harmed, but also tempers might flare into violence. Perhaps a police presence from time to time might help. Thank you for anything you can do. Signed by the resident. We received a similar request from a gentleman on Franklin Street who's specifically looking for speed bumps. A lot of the traffic, East Milton Square, as most of you know, has been inundated with construction work lately. Construction is very good at slowing traffic. Unfortunately, people try to avoid construction, and they tend to weave their way through streets that they ordinarily wouldn't be on. Try to find Mr. Oh, here it is here. Milton Traffic Mitigation Committee. I am unable to attend the June 13 meeting, but offer these comments for your consideration. Cut-through traffic and speeding has increased townwide and will get worse. Ongoing road construction and red line MBTA problems virtually guarantee as much. Action is necessary now. I live on Franklin Street, an extremely busy cut-through street in the heart of East Milton. Franklin Street provides unfettered two-way access to East Milton Square, and on the opposite end funnels into the Quincy border. Due to its popularity with commuters, the Franklin Church Wood Street neighborhood resembles the Indianapolis 500 during the morning and drive time commutes. There are virtually no repercussions for drivers who routinely speed through our neighborhood and do not stop at marked intersections, or for school buses picking up, dropping off children. I urge the town to consider installing speed bumps in selective locations and note speed bumps presently in use on Elliott Street, Thatcher Street, Hillside Street, and Governor's Road. Communities such as Brookline and Cambridge have successfully implemented and maintained speed bumps. The speeding and volume of traffic is a blight on our quality of life and is a public safety hazard. Those of us with small children owe it to the next generation to protect them and take measures to avoid a tragedy such as the 2018 pedestrian fatality in South Boston. That's from a Franklin Street resident. So we get this stuff at Town Hall all the time, and it's not just one neighborhood, and it's not just one street. It's townwide. And to the chair's point, it's a statewide epidemic. It's a national epidemic. So just quickly, if we want to go through, here's the Wikimap's address. A lot of the stuff in here, if we drill into it, the link is there. It's in the mitigation folder on the town's website. But just everything you see comes up. It's okay if we have duplicate points or identifications for similar incidents. There's no limit to how many times you can submit a case. I think there's been over 150 different users of the Wikimap's. And this is just an example of what's going on in town and some of the stuff we're requesting. Most of them, drivers ignore the do not enter. Bad driver behavior. High speed. Townwide speed limit sign on that short piece of Pleasant, which I've testified before gets 7,000 vehicles a day, right by Ben's factory. And that we believe are people that don't live in the town that are making their way through Milton. That commute changes after the morning commute, and it then reverts back to the evening commute, and then I think we get some quiet time after that evening commute. So all this information's here. We are taking a look at it, and to the chair's point, we're trying to identify the short-term stuff through the work of the Traffic Commission and MPD on the street and DPW out on the road with some, traffic markings, some signal timing things. Recently, we learned that the loop detectors are these infrastructure built into the roadways. The loop detector at Reedsdale, Canton Center, and wasn't working properly. They have a shelf life. Contractors dig them up, They separate the conduit, things don't work. We installed cameras there last Monday. For those of you that make that commute to middle school, may have seen the big red truck there fixing that street light. They weren't fixing the street light, they were installing cameras on top of that intersection. Those cameras talk to each other and work the same way a loop detector would, which was they see the amount of cars that each intersection is carrying for a load, and then they release the traffic accordingly. We had a company in called SureTrack. When we talked to the city of Quincy, they came into the traffic commission and presented to us one morning. It's an expensive technology, but Quincy's deployed it. Basically, there's cameras mounted. It can see, I think it's about 500 feet out, and the cameras talk to each other, just like the one at Reedsdale and Canton Ave, and it releases traffic accordingly. It's not done on timing, but rather on load capacity. So we're looking at stuff like this. It's expensive. We're going to make it a part of the East Milton Deck project to hopefully release some of that traffic coming from the south and now east from Quincy as Quincy begins to develop. But we're looking at all sorts of stuff, and this information is invaluable. So over the last 2 months, we've seen it kind of drop off a bit. We've only gotten about 14 or 15 requests. I'm asking the people in this room and people on TV to continue to submit that information to us. We'll probably cut this off sometime around Labor Day and then start working on our deliverables to the select board.
So on the wiki, I want to encourage people to do that for two reasons. Go to the wiki. First, you can learn what other people are concerned about it. And secondly, this is going to be a roadmap to inform the work that we're doing. This is a principal way that we're getting feedback about what all of you are concerned about. This meeting is part of that. The meetings we have on Tuesday mornings are part of that, and so is the wiki. So please use that. So thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask if there's anybody in the audience who'd like to be heard and address the folks in the room. Give you an opportunity to speak. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions.
Could you just identify yourself so we?
Harriet Manning.
And where do you live, Mrs. Manning?
Park. Wendell Park.
Wendell Park.
And I'm precinct 4 town meeting.
Great.
My first question is, well, you have your strike issues out, you do the one on Canton Avenue by the library, that bridge.
Oh, the block the box?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lieutenant, was there an issue with that block the box?
I think they reversed the driveway, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we redo that, because people still don't adhere, they still go over.
Oh. Yeah, so you're going to need a mic. We'll get you a microphone so that there's.
I don't want to be on camera.
You don't need to be on camera. I don't want to force you to do anything you don't want to do, but I think you make a good point that people would like to hear. So, could she hear? You don't have a mic for her? All right, so why don't I'll repeat the... All right, so the question from the woman at Wendell Park was, when the town has its painting gear out, is it going to address the painting that's going on at Canton Ave at the library?
My second question was, is there any way with all these surveillance cameras and these slowing down signs, can we incorporate that into ticketing?
Yeah, so, okay, I knew that was coming. I mean, that's a favorite question. So the question is can you incorporate these cameras into ticketing? So technologically you can, but that would be a violation of state law, which doesn't permit ticketing by video right now. So it has been piloted in other communities, most notably in New York City around schools, with some good results. It's a very hot issue amongst towns like Milton and, frankly, all cities. And I don't speak for the Milton Police Department, but I don't know if they've taken a position on it.
That's not an official position on it.
Yeah.
It does take the discretion out of, when you do stop someone, I think there's a value to having a person-to-person interaction. I think a lot of that is appreciated in other countries together, but in some cities, you go over the stop line, you get that stop sign ticket in certain jurisdictions. So you think you stop at the stop sign, but you didn't stop at the stop line, you're getting cited. And you're going to be, on your insurance for 6 years.
Does that come through the mail?
Yeah, it's not implemented here, so, I would assume you receive a ticket in the mail. There's issues with, different plates on different cars, lease car, who gets the ticket. There's a few little hiccups in there that probably have to be worked out. But
It's a fair question. It's a good question. It's come up before. We will address it in our report as to what we'll do, and what part of our work that we haven't finished yet is to see where Mass Municipal Association is on the issue, okay? Thank you.
No, I was just talking about when you leave Logan Airport and you don't have a transponder,
Yeah,
you get charged.
yeah, okay, so they've got, yeah, so, it's a good point. I was going to point out that MassDOT actually has a statutory authority to do that. So it's written into the law that they can do that. So there is an exception, but I didn't think you were talking about toll collection. But,
No, I wasn't.
no, I know, but that's why they can do it. The law permits them to do it. Yeah, you're welcome. Anybody else? Yes.
Nick, Lynn, 383 Central. So I'm the third house up from the lights, and it's a one-way.
Up from the lights. Yeah, so heading north?
Heading towards the school.
Oh,
Heading towards Pierce on Central, coming up from Lower Mills.
Oh.
And it should just be one lane, but we have the parking lane and the bike lane. But you can't pull in and out of any of these driveways between 3:30 and 7. And I know this is going to be broadcast, so I'm not going to repeat some of the things that I've heard my wife been called. It's ridiculous. And, you know, someone called the police on me 2 weeks ago to complain that I was parked in the driving lane while I was parked in front of my house. And I know that you guys are super busy, but I invite any of you to come sit on my stoop between 4 and 7 and see what Central Ave looks like going under the lights.
So you're directly across from Pierce in the section of Central Ave that
No,
runs...
I'm on the end of the long end. So if you're coming up from Tino's,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm the newly painted yellow house.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's Chris Grant, my parents, Karen and Gary Land, and then Mitt. And in order for us to get out of our driveways, someone needs to physically get out into the street to stop the traffic.
Yeah, yeah.
And coming down the parking and the bike lane, not only is it cars, not only is it NBTA and back buses, but sometimes Milton trucks. And it's unacceptable. I mean, that's it.
No, thank you.
I'm tired of having my wife come in saying that she's getting called racial slurs. It's kind of bullshit.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I know that you guys are busy. Like, I know that you can't go and enforce everywhere, but come take a look.
Okay.
Because I mean, you guys live in Milton, right? What's it like to get out of your driveway? Pretty easy?
I've made the example. I live on Rose Street. Getting out of Pleasant Street in the morning can take me 10 minutes because there's so much traffic coming down Pleasant. An hour and a half later, I could lay across the middle of Pleasant Street and no one would know I was there. It's just that morning and evening commute. I know Central's a little busier than yours. Pleasant is somewhat busy, but it's those whole commute times that really are bothersome. And quite honestly, this is where people pass out buses on the inside, but they pass in the bike lane. Crazy stuff happens.
I mean, I know that we can't change the people coming. I mean, it's going down 28. Like, people are going to go through town. But, you know, if a cop were to be there or someone were to be there once in a while, handing out tickets to all those people that are driving down the parking lane or driving down the bike lane or, you know, passing on the right or going over the lines, maybe that would deter people from doing it.
So on the issue of, certainly enforcement's a unifying theme of all of the work that we've done. But I also think we need to reject the notion that people can't become better drivers. It's a complete national epidemic. And, you know, as I said to somebody shortly after the committee was formed, I said, well, we've concluded that there's a lot more traffic, but there's not a lot we can do about it. We could take that approach, or we could try to get at the root cause. That's part of why we're looking at Vision Zero, because it's all of that. It's all of the above. It's everything you said and more. But it's, you know, getting your neighbor to be a better driver is part of it, but we also need to work on that driver from Randolph and Quincy and Dorchester and Boston, whatever, you know. So it's a big issue, and I appreciate the point. Anybody
Mr. Chair,
else?
can I also acknowledge
Yes.
Select Board Member Katie Conlon is here?
Yes, Katie Conlon. Welcome.
Thanks, Katie.
Pretty soon we'll have a quorum. Or maybe we do have a quorum now. Yeah, okay. Yes.
My name's Ann Fahey. I live on the lower half of Clapp Street, and I actually walked up here today. And my concern was, as I attempted to cross from the lower half over Central Ave, I actually couldn't see, and this could be something that could be taken care of tomorrow. the trees were all overgrown, and I had to step onto the street to see if there was a car coming. So if I had to do that, I'm sure the cars can't see me. It's right by the middle school, I think a yellow sign for the kids crossing would be good, but just for tonight, when I was trying to cross, I couldn't see.
Is the tree on private property or is it a town tree, do you know?
No, it's trees that are overgrowing from the Pierce.
School over the fence. Gotcha. So you're down where the buses pick the kids up, coming across.
So this is a good example of no issue being too small, because to the earlier slide, some things, we're not going to make a large dent in the volume on 93 northbound in the AM commute. We could probably help you with the Pierce trees, but fixing the Pierce trees will help traffic on Central Ave, and it will make for a safer pedestrian walk on Clapp Street. That's valuable, so thank you for that. Yeah, and that's what the wiki's all about. It's those things. Anybody else like to be heard? Lee? Oh, Lee comes to all our meetings, so thank you, Lee, for doing that. Yes, in the back.
I guess I'm looking at the map, and then Jean Felix, I'm on Elliott Street.
Elliot, okay.
And I think there's probably enough data now to just close the books on this and let's get going in some ways.
Oh, we're not holding anything up for it. We want to give people a full opportunity. But as we'd said I agree with you. As Administrator Dennehy said, after the first meeting, we had a whole series of things. Nobody's stopping doing anything. We're just not finished with the work. We need to submit our report, but the work is ongoing. And you're right. There's enough on there to keep the Public Works Department and the Police Department busy for quite a while. Now, some of these are big issues. Taking care of traffic on 28 on Randolph Avenue is a huge issue, and it's been a huge issue in this town for a long time. But some are small and also important, like the one that the woman just raised. So, but we're not waiting for that. Appreciate the point.
I do appreciate
I know you do. You're here, of course.
And to that point, some of the stuff we're working through. So I know Mr. Toma has testified there was a stop sign that was once at the trolley tracks at Central Ave. His testimony at the previous meeting, as well as a testimony when the high-speed line the T was here talking about improvements. We had a subsequent meeting with the T. They're going to come out and put, I forget what they're called. It's basically to let you know.
Crossings.
Right, but it's going to be a flashing crossing. So there's more stuff that's going on that we're collecting from this information that we're trying to distribute to other jurisdictions and meet as a town with them. That took place recently, and we should see those installed pretty soon. So thank you for your testimony with that, Lee. And I also agree with you. There's plenty of information here to get going. So,
Anybody else like to be heard? Yes, Anthony.
Good evening.
Could you just say your name for the record?
Anthony Musto, 101 Milton Street. Just wanted to see if there was any recent discussion on Milton Street, Ponce Valley Parkway, Brush Hill Road, traffic situation.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, I haven't heard anything. I have a couple of requests. If a no truck sign could be put where the sign, where it says entering Milton, is on that island, between Ponce Valley Parkway and Brush Hill Road. We could add a sign down there. Done a little bit of investigation myself with some of these tractor trailers that are coming up our street, and I happened to follow one down to Stop and Shop warehouse, the old Stop and Shop warehouse. And they don't know that there's no trucks coming up our street, because our sign is further up, just at the Brush Hill Road, Milton Street intersection. So I want to put a request in to see if we could add a sign for no trucks at the bottom, where it says entering Milton sign.
so in other words, by the time they see the sign, it's too late. Yeah, especially for a tractor trailer.
So, yeah, exactly. I'm not talking about landscape trucks and all that. They're doing a service for our community. For people cutting lawns and so forth. These are tractor trailers. So, they were all trying to take a shortcut. They come up our street, they're avoiding the Ponce Parkway, and they're taking a right and going down 138. So perhaps a no turn on red sign, which was there at one time, a long time ago. It might have been taken out when the cars, they hit that wall in the corner several times.
That's at the top of,
Top of.
Milton and Blue Hill
Blue Hill
Avenue.
Yeah.
there used to be a sign there that said no turn on red.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's happening there is, if a tractor trailer comes up and it's gonna take a right, especially during peak hours, in the evening more or less, traffic on 138 is backed up. So now the tractor trailer is sitting there trying to take a right on 138. In the light screen, there's no way, no one, there isn't anyone. we
Blocking
can't get
everybody,
out.
yeah.
And a lot of times they block our entrance on our street.
We're more than halfway down the street, so.
Yeah, so these are
Yep.
small issues, but I think if we put a couple of little signs up, which I'm not a sign guy, but I think if you put like maybe a no turn right up the top of Milton Street, a no truck sign down at the bottom,
Would help.
it would help a little bit. And one more sign, which I think is state, because it's on 138. So if you're coming down 138, and you were to take a left on the Ponce Valley Parkway, there is a sign that says the Ponce Valley Parkway left turn. But the sign is past the Ponce Valley Parkway. So no one is taking that left because.
This is traffic traveling north?
Traveling north. That sign, there's two signs there, and they both block each other. So the second sign should be maybe 30 feet before the entrance to the Ponce Valley Parkway. Now, I'm sure that's a state issue, but maybe somebody can make a few calls and we can get that moved when they're doing that construction project. That'd be great.
Shouldn't be hard to move that before then.
Yeah, little minor things that will help. And I know there's some, is there a plan for the,
There is, that 138 corridor study, there's a working group that meets every Wednesday now.
okay.
The town has 2 representatives on that.
All right. And these are just things, I came to the meeting tonight because there's just little things that I think if we implement them, not a huge cost, and maybe it'll solve some problems temporarily. And, I mean, I know is there a master plan at bottom of Brush Hill Road? Do anything there?
Down at the bridge, down there? Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
No, there was some back and forth with the state rep and DCR, and that's working its way through the process. I'm not sure where it is. I can double check with Rep Driscoll tomorrow.
Okay, so,
Thank you.
those are little signs that, you know, hopefully it'll, and I thank you very much, Lieutenant Alva, when we met, the enforcement you've been doing, and I know you are busy, you know, there's other things that are more important. They have stopped trucks on our road, which is great, we really appreciate that. You can't be there every single day, you know. I happened to notice all this. I was doing a project at my house for 2 weeks, and I started seeing all these trailers coming up, tractor trailers. I mean, they're big 18-wheel tractor trailers, and that's when I said, something's going on here. So I thought it was a detour, but it wasn't, and they're just taking a shortcut. So I think, you know, put a couple signs up there, hopefully it'll work out.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We get the two most recent town meeting members from the art district working on it, the Musto boys. Yes,
Can I add one more?
yes.
Again, I'm from the lower half of Clap Street, and the kids come out of the school in the afternoon, and there is no full sidewalk going down the street on either side. There's a half a sidewalk closest to the school that ends with a driveway where the buses come out, and there's no other sidewalks for the amount of kids that come out of back out of that school. Huge safety issue.
Yeah. So I don't know, I mean, that's a complete street issue. I don't know if you've got a Clap Street,
I don't know if it's a school thing,
Yeah.
if it's a town thing.
We can put it into the list, it's not in there right now.
yeah. So for those listening at home, the comment was about the traffic, sidewalks on Clap, the lower section of Clap near behind the Pierce. And the answer is, we'll discuss with the schools.
We can actually add it to that list.
Add it to the list of initiatives, yeah, okay, all right.
Well, one of the other interesting things I found, if you go on mass.gov and type in rideshare in the box, it shows you the amount of rideshare rides that took place in 2017. And then it shows the amount of money that was distributed to each community based on where the ride originated from. And that's the roughly $14,000 I referenced earlier. I went through that list today because there's some pretty unique stuff that some communities are doing with that money. I'm not talking about the far western Mass towns that got a check for 40 cents because they had 4 ride shares originate in their town, but there's a lot of dynamic stuff you can do. Some towns are taking it and adding to their sidewalks. Some towns are taking it and putting in traffic infrastructure, signals. Others are putting in street signs. Others are, improving their crosswalks. So there's a lot of stuff on that page that shows you what other communities are doing with that money, because when we receive that money from the state, we have to then report back to them that the town of Milton used those for flashing solar LED stop signs. But it's pretty neat, and I would, if you're looking for ideas that you could present to us, that's one of the places I looked, and a lot of the communities are doing very different things with the money that they receive from the state, from this Baker-Polito Administrative Initiative, which I thoroughly we enjoy and reap the benefits of that. So,
Okay. All right, so I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and look forward to continuing to hear your good ideas about traffic in the town, and I hope you look forward to the work that we'll produce in the fall and the winter. So thank you very much. Good night.
thank you.
Meeting's adjourned.